Nigeria presidential candidate Bola Tinubu has promised to bring hope to Nigerians if he wins this coming Saturday's elections. Tinubu was speaking at a final rally for the All Progressive Congress held in Lagos this week. The 70-year-old is up against two other candidates running for the country's top post. More than 93 million Nigerians have registered to vote for a new president, as well as members of the lower parliament and House of Representatives. Afolabi Adekaiyaoja is a research analyst with the Center for Democracy and Development in Abuja. Joins us tonight to talk more about the power of the youth vote in the election. A very good evening to you, sir. I hope I've not done too badly on pronouncing your name tonight. Let's talk about the level of youth interest in this election. It appears to be showing some hope, impressive signs, especially compared to the last election. Why are we seeing more young people registering?
So the youth vote in the Nigerian election is actually the aftermath of quite a lot of more civic engagement, but also a very renewed drive by CSOs and other organizations to try to make sure that we have more youth engagement in Nigerian politics. So we have had a very increased and fairly successful registration process to get more people registered to vote and to take part in the elections. And so the majority of the 11.9% added voters to the election will have actually been youth, and that has been the result of increased engagement and participation. But one thing that we're also very mindful of is that this is also the first election since the October 2020 EndSARS protest. And we know that after the protest took place in 2020, there's been a lot of effort to really try to make sure that more youth are engaged and more youth are really mindful of the impact that the elections will have in subsequent policies and subsequent decisions. It is the reason why a lot of politicians have actively tried to cultivate the youth vote, either through social media or using influencers, but then also trying to cater to that particular demographic, which we know will be a very important block in the coming elections. Historically, more young Nigerians have not come out to vote, but then really turning out this particular block, which is around 36% in this coming election, and of which 29.7% of them are 27.8% actually students, will be very key in whoever it is that are able to really break through and get necessary results on Saturday.
We have a bit of an audio quality issue between you and I, so I'll just speak slower so that you're also able to hear me. 2019, in that election, there was about 46% of Nigerians younger than 35 who basically turned out to vote in the election. How are the candidates, especially from the two main parties, appealing to the youth when you consider that their candidates are basically double the age of the oldest members of that demographic?
So what we've been seeing is an increased effort to cater to younger Nigerians, especially through social media. So we have more influencers who are taking part in this process. We have an increased racket really on that particular front. Now, unfortunately, what this has also done is that it has also amplified the incursion of misinformation and information disorder in the Nigerian elections. So we're seeing more people trending fake news or fake articles or fake stories, and really taking advantage of the fact that a significant population of the Nigerian youth demographic is online and on social media. Now, to put it bluntly, and also from a much more recap analysis perspective, since the campaigns actually are closing tomorrow, what we can say is that the major parties have not been as successful in actively galvanizing and really catering to this demographic. So this is because on one hand, you have the incumbent ruling party that has still largely been accused and still largely associated with the EndSARS protest. And many of the more difficult procedures and policies that are taking place, either in terms of the economic mismanagement and even just issues ranging from particularly targeting young Nigerians who are active on the technological scene. And then you have the PDP, whose candidate hasn't particularly been as inspiring or hasn't particularly been as tied to much of the more advanced policies that you'd expect from the youthful demographic. This is actually why many analyses and many polls are breaking for insurgent candidates such as Kwankwaso in the North, who has actually been able to get a lot of support for this particular demographic. And more famously, Peter Obi, who is the candidate of the LP and who is from the southern part of the country. Now, Peter Obi's campaign has actually been quite smart, to put it, in being able to actively engage with students whenever they've gone to a particular state or different parts of the country. But one thing that we are quite watching out for is that, as you already rightly mentioned, historically this bloc hasn't come out to vote as much, either for different reasons, concerns about insecurity, concerns about, or even just general voter apathy. This bloc hasn't come out to vote. And also, if you put that alongside Nigeria's voter turnout, historically we've actually been seeing a reduction in the number of citizens who have come out to vote. So we had a 69% turnout in 2003, and that has consistently dropped to 35% 4 years ago. So if there is to be an offset, or if there is to be an unexpected result, what will likely happen is that the candidates will need to be able to bring out a significant number of voters who have not turned out before, who have not been as enthused by the process, and that is where the insurgent candidates such as Peter Obi and Kwankwaso will play a very big role if they are able to bring out those voters, because that will completely upend a lot of political permutations and historical calculations that we have used to assume that it's going to be one of those two major candidates.
Just lastly, Afolabi, is there a great deal of optimism in Nigeria that this election will change the course of the country, especially as far as making it a country that is prosperous for all?
Ultimately, what there is more optimism about is about the fact that the elections will likely be more free and fair. So granted, there are concerns about insecurity in different parts of the country. There are concerns about the likelihood of some of these issues affecting voting in some of the more contentious areas in the country. But there is optimism. The fact that the electoral management body has been very firm, has been really detailed in going through the timeline that it's already set for itself 2 years ago. The fact that there has been the introduction of technology. So we have the bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, which is meant to ensure that there is no, that there is a reduction in overvoting in particular areas, or even the fact that people who are not registered to vote take part. We also have IREV, which is the INEC Results Viewer Portal. Now, this allows any citizen anywhere in the world to log on to the INEC server and then see the results as they have been uploaded from the different polling units, all 176,846 of them. Now, what these different mechanisms puts in place mean is that there are more Nigerians who are optimistic that their votes will count, that there won't be any unnecessary mismanagement or manipulation of the results, and that if there is enough of momentum, then it can actually change the outcome of the country. Now, obviously, in an election, there are people who obviously think that in any particular candidate, a particular party, that things are going well enough for them to support them. So it's a case where ultimately whoever it is that gets elected will need to cater to a fairly divided electorate. We have a country that's divided along very different lines. Identity has played a very big role in the election, ranging from religion to ethnicity to obviously the generational gap. So whoever it is that does get elected will need to play a very important role and hit the ground running, basically, to make sure that either in the run-up to the inauguration on the 29th of May and throughout the first term, that there is a lot of catering to make sure that people can feel much more united and much more balanced together. And a very big part will be the youth population, of which we are seeing many different trends that can be cause for alarm, including an increasing effort to try to lead the country, and even just the general concern on unemployment and other issues that tend to particularly target the youth demographic. So ultimately, there is optimism about the conduct of the polls. The aftermath is where there is still a lot more uncertainty and a lot more apprehension.
Afolabi Adekaiyaoja, good to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time today.